So my first question to the panelists is, with which nature-based solution in your municipality do you identify most with and why? I'll give the floor to Daniel first to answer this question.
Hello, once again. I will share my experience from the metropolitan point of view. So we have representatives from the cities, but we are working in the metropolitan level. So we have a problem with the drought and flooding in all Kraków metropolis. And also we have a lack of sufficient water absorption in the ground. So we have to look for the solutions from the micro scale, but also on the large scale, the metropolitan scale. We saw the very good examples from the city of Kraków. The deputy directors show us a lot of very good examples from the city of Kraków. Tomorrow you will see the examples in municipalities surrounded. I mean, from the Niepołomice municipality. They have also very good examples how we can increase the numbers of places where we can make it better for absorption water and be the answer for the climate challenges. Also, the second thing what I want to say is the challenges for the climate challenges for Kraków. So Kraków is one of the 100 European cities who want to be a climate neutrality, and also the Kraków Metropolis try to join to the European climate missions. So for us, the challenge for us, I mean for the metropolitan area, the challenge is how to the big ideas move to the local level and implement in the local level. Thank you.
Thank you very much. But Daniel, but what is your favorite nature-based solution in Kraków? We have heard so many, and I was very eager to hear. Or you can also name 2 or 3.
As you mentioned at the beginning, I'm also very familiar with the mobility challenges. Mm-hmm. So my favorite solution is this. I don't know how to name it correctly, but under the railway, the place under the railway, okay, where we want to make a new space for the people, a new green space for the people, mm-hmm, and we want to connect the 2 districts in Kraków. So I think it's one of the best projects in Kraków, because it's joined the mobility challenges together with the climate changes, with the expectations of people. So in nature-based solutions, we have to look this kind of solutions which helps solve many problems in one project. And this kind of project is one of the best for me.
Super, thank you. Feel free to pass on the microphone, yes, to Javier. So the same question to you. With which nature-based solution do you identify most with in Granollers, and why?
Hello, Svenja. Hello, everybody. My choice is a nature-based solution about the renaturalization of a degraded area. The objective were biodiversity and also the water management. So this recovered site is a forest and river area located far from the city, maybe almost 4 kilometers away. and it was a place completely polluted and forgotten by the citizens of Granollers. So the restoration process started with eliminating the environmental impacts on that area. Mainly, there was a huge landfill, and after the restoration of this huge landfill, we constructed a tertiary treatment wetland, which is a kind of artificial pond that received the effluent waters from the wastewater treatment plant of Granollers, and after and it functions the same way as a natural lake, and with this new habitat for the biodiversity, we also achieve reused water that we can supply for the watering of the city center parks. So after the successful first actions in the landfill and also the constructed wetland, we could also implement some river restoration in the same area, including the construction of a network of paths and trails from the city center to this peri-urban area. That was completely successful for the social activities, and the community, the local community, received very well this new green and social corridor between the Granollers city and also the peri-urban area. Apart from that, we built an environmental education center in the recovered site, and each year more or less 2,000 students take part in activities to know how the wetland functions, how the river habitat was restored, and everything. I think it is a complete nature-based solution. Maybe when we started to develop, this concept was not known, but nowadays we consider this a best practice in nature-based solutions, and it creates it multiplies the green infrastructure of Granollers, and this is really relevant for us.
Thank you. Sounds very interesting, and sounds like a very holistic approach in the end. And yeah, excellent stuff. And what about you, Max? What nature-based solution in Chemnitz do you identify most with, and why?
Thank you very much for this kind introduction and your question. And yes, we identify most with, we as a focal point, city focal point, identify most with is probably the Owl Park in Chemnitz. It's an, let's say, medium-scale intervention close to the city center of Chemnitz. And maybe before I go ahead, like explain it more in detail, you should know that before the development of the park, roughly 15 years ago, the park was, well, it was obviously not there, but there was no nature at all. So the river was covered by construction and was used as a parking lot. So kind of the total different kind of scene there. But then when with the development of the park, there was, so the river got reopened, and trees are planted, shrubs and bigger lawn area was introduced. And also looking at the social sides of things, there's a cycling path which passes through 2 walking paths and on a higher level, so which is like on the level of the surrounding building areas, and one which is close to the river itself to kind of immerse in nature, let's say it like this. And yeah, and then there's also for like recreational things, so the lawn area and benches which are kind of integrated in a natural way in the inclining area of the land. So that's kind of like all fits in nicely. And then looking at the economical side of the park, I would need to say that it mainly serves as an detention area in order to kind of help prevent high water events in this area, especially for the city center, and also to, as an overreaching function, it is until its development, It was like the missing piece in the main green corridor of Chemnitz. So in order to connect the green areas in the south with the green areas in the north of Chemnitz. So now with its establishment, the main green corridor is like functioning as a whole, is complete, and it's supplying the city center with fresh, cold air from the mountains around.
We'll share the microphone. Yeah, so that sounds really, really great as well. And after hearing all your wonderful examples, I want to talk shortly about obstacles. Were there any obstacles when you guys were implementing or currently are still implementing these projects? And if so, could you also give one tip how to overcome them? And yeah, and I would give the question right back to Max.
All right. Yeah, so challenges we needed to overcome. As I already mentioned, the area was, before the development, the area was covered by a parking lot. So, but there was already, so this was roughly 15 years ago. But before this, there was already a framework plan in place for this area, which already envisioned the creation of this park. But at this time, when the framework plan was developed, there was only little interest and nearly no money kind of reserved for the creation of the park. So nothing really moved back and forward. Since the framework plan also didn't have like a real binding agreement included. So there was just a plan and the undeveloped park/parking lot. But then, and kind of for the park itself, for the development of the park, good event happened, but like for whole of Chemnitz, a rather bad one. So there was a high water event in 2002. And during this high water event, the construction of the parking lot got damaged. And now they had kind of like only two options to move forward, either to fix it and to keep the parking lot, or to demolish it completely and to develop the parking lot. And during this period of time, the stakes were on the side of those who were for the development of the park, because it was quite easy to argue if you would develop the park, such high water events could be kind of mitigated or reduced in the near future. And so because of this kind of biggest high water event in recent history of Chemnitz, everyone was kind of eager to not happen things like this again. So as a conclusion, the park was developed. And maybe a tip to overcome like those, the challenge of implementing things is maybe not to just react after something bad happens. This would be kind of, it's always better to act beforehand. But in this case, it would be to maybe already have a plan in place, or at least an idea in your mind, in order to be kind of the fastest if circumstances changes, like political or environmental circumstances, and then to be the first in place who kind of is able to hand in a plan and an idea from a specific area. And then this kind of gives you probably the advantage of time, and then you're kind of better prepared for further like questions and stuff like this. Thank you.
Thanks. That's very interesting. And it's, yeah, unfortunate, but very often it happens that always after like an external shock, then things move forward. But it's actually a good tip to think, okay, have something in your drawer, some ideas, some plans. So I would like to pass on the question to Daniel. So what obstacles did you encounter? And maybe also specifically to that railway project you were mentioning before, and would you have one tip of how to overcome it?
Okay, so about the obstacles, I see the huge challenge for all of us, because once upon a time, many years ago, we have to start reviewing planning investments from their environmental impact. In Poland, especially, we start to think about it in 90 after the revolution, political revolution. So when we discovered that we have to take care about the environment after communism deep impact for our environment. And nowadays, we have to face the many challenges connecting with the climate changes. So it's not only environmental impact, it's a carbon footprint, a heat island, water retention, also the co-creation process, which are very important because many examples shows that when we talk with the inhabitants, with the people, when we ask them to the co-creation process, the finally results are much more better for all community. So for me, the question is how we can rapidly switch on the new reality and how we can prepare the investments. I think about many kinds of investments, from the railway or mobility investments, but also the new buildings or renovation the old buildings. We have a huge energy crisis now, so it requires for us a completely new approach to investment, but to think about what we are doing in the public spaces. That's why I mean the Kraków Metropolis, try to provide the conditions for the municipalities, for the people who are working in municipalities, to find the common standards. So for me, it's a very interesting examples for the workshops, the standards, the nature or green standards. But I think that we need the climate standards for investments to face all this problem. What we have to solve in the next years.
So that's a really interesting point. So how to reduce basically the complexity of nowadays, with all the different aspects one has to think about, and of standards being like a tool to help you with that, so to follow like a common protocol. So thank you very much for that. And then yes, Javier, what is the situation in Granollers?
So in our case, as always, we need to face several obstacles. I think the main one was how to restore this degraded area to transform into a habitat with a good ecological status. And for that, we need to get in touch with the scientific community, because they made us proposals about how technically can be solved the environmental problems that we have there. So both in landscape, landfill, and also in the wetland, especially in this second one, the Polytechnic University of Barcelona, they help us a lot, and even now they are monitoring the water quality of the wetland, and they design a kind of wetland with a combination of deep and shallow areas with different vegetation species. And finally, they achieved the biodiversity objective, and together with the nearby river, nowadays they are included in the Natura 2000 network. So this kind of cooperation with researchers, with scientific community was really good for us. And after overcoming this initial obstacle, really serious, nowadays we continue having another barriers. One is the maintenance requirements. We are solving similar to some explanations that we listened before. It's preserving a lot of natural environments with low maintenance. It's only a rewilding approach. So there is no intervention unless there is any emergency. And we concentrate the recreational areas only in some specific zones without no big interaction with the natural processes. And finally, the need for funding. This is a typical obstacle in any project. Fortunately, the innovative approach of this restoration process, including above all the water reuse, this is something that is not really common around the Europe, and this is of special interest for dry regions as in Spain, and this is helping us to fight against the water scarcity, to have a city with a water resilience. This innovative approach help us to achieve different subsidies from Europe, regional and Spanish, that help us to improve a lot, and it is expected to will expand this natural area and also the network of trails in the next year, including also a similar project. So it's a replication project in the city center. So the successful project developed in the peri-urban area, it's going to be replicated in the city center. That for us is an even bigger challenge.
Wow, yeah, so thank you, and good luck the next year when you guys start the new project. So I hear from you if situations are very complex, to get like partners on board, scientific partners who help you. I hear also like the conflict between nature and people, which places we actually choose, where we also want recreational activities and we're not, and of course funding, always an important issue. So thank you all three for answering my questions so far. And now I want to give the floor to you, to the audience, to share with us your experiences, your examples, and I would be really interested to hear more about what type of measures you are implementing and why, also any problems you might have encountered, and any tips you have for us. But you can also use this time, so we'll have more or less 10 minutes for this. Use this time to ask our panelists questions. So that's of course also possible if you want to know more about what they just explained. Yeah, then you can also do that, of course. So any volunteers? Just raise your hands, and then Maria Staninic will come with the microphone to you. So yeah, and would also be interesting to know, for example, when you explain measures, what objectives were you trying to achieve? So is it more biodiversity? Was it more for people? And yeah, but I see we have somebody from the audience who would like to say a few words. So could you please say your name and the organization you're from? And yes.
I'm an official volunteer, so to speak.
You're an official, yes, and of
As
course
always.
I've met you this morning, but maybe for those who don't remember.
I'm just, kind of warming up to give you the time to think about your input, your question. My name is Tomasz Bergier, I'm of the St. Jimmy Foundation. I also work actually on the AGH, University of Science and Technology in Kraków. And I've got a kind of question to Daniel, because I remember that we were working before pre-interlace era, so to speak. And we were thinking about some joint actions many years ago. And I was really inspired by your vision, how you called Metropolia of Standards. Yeah, so it's not only the strategy, it's not only a vision, but also some very concrete solution, tools and indicators. And today, here we are with the green standards, and you mentioned something which again inspires me quite a lot, climate standards. And I think that's, fantastic, but my question is, do you have any idea how they could look like? Or because I think that green areas maintenance is very complex, it's very complicated, but climate maintenance, it's even more complicated. So as a practitioner, I think that it could be quite difficult to connect what Monica showed, that it should be simple, it should be short. On the other hand, it should be worth something. So do you have any ideas how they could be developed? That was the wrong question, sorry, but important.
Okay, thank you for this difficult question. And as you said, we have a vision, and you mentioned that many years, it was probably 2017 when we were talking about it. So we were talking about the metropolis of standards, and now we have a supra-local strategy. It's a first step for the municipalities to show the common direction and to show in which areas, in which 7 areas, because our supra-local strategy shows 7 common areas of cooperation. And in these areas, we want to prepare this. Also, we have to prepare the standards. Now we have to face with the climate changes, and we had a very good conversation with this one of the division from Kraków, one of the division in Kraków administration, that shows we need these climate standards for investments. How to do it, we don't know yet, but I'm sure that we will find a way how to do it, because we have to do it. We have no choice. And we cannot keep investments in the rules from the last 20 years. It doesn't work. So I hope that we will find a way. And I'm sure that I will share this idea with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I fully agree. And a short comment that recently I was a kind of expert to analyzing how the region is spending European money for infrastructure. And in my opinion, when you read all of these documents, the small share of this money is spent for the climate adaptation, and most of this money is spent just opposite. So with public money, very often from European money, I'm sorry to say so, but we just do the opposite. The huge parking lots, the huge infrastructure without any water retention. So I fully agree, we have to do it. There is no choice. Of course, I also agree it's not easy, but I hope that we will manage. Okay, so.
It sounds like a new project idea. I already see something really interesting evolving there. And there we have a show of hands. Excellent. So please just shortly again your name and your position.
Hi, I'm Monika from Wrocław Green Maintenance Office. I have a reflection that we are talking about how to stop, just to stop. We are very developed with urban order, urban standards. We are drawing brown and red dots and plots on maps, and then we decided it's a place to develop, to to make it with concrete and so on. And we are talking all the time how to stop it, how to make this concrete more green and so on. For example, I want to say something about the project that we do in Wrocław. Somebody 15 years ago decided that on old river should be road and a canal and so on. So we started to develop this area and the design of this canal. Some new buildings appeared in this area, and people which live in this building started to vote against it. Sorry, because of the trees, of course, and the water and so on. So it took about 2 years to stop this investigation and just to leave this river to keep the water in it. And we just do some little intervention to build the lakes, small lakes in the plant park to give this place to people. And somehow we realized that in this small river we could gather all the water from all the district. Somehow, nobody before think about it like this. So this is nature-based solution. So how to fit to this landscape, how to fit to the things that the features that the nature gave us, how to use it and just to live with it, with this. Okay. I'm sorry for my English. Thank you.
No worries. Thank you very much for your example, and also free, of course, to share your example in Polish. I mean, we have the translation, and I'll put on my little ear sets. And yeah, any more comments?
Hello.
Hello.
I'm Sarah. I work also in the city of Chemnitz in the environmental office. I have a question maybe to Daniel or Javi or maybe someone else in the room who works also in a city. In Chemnitz, we appear to have a problem with also private investors to motivate them to install NBS in their buildings. For example, we currently there's a big building happening, which is a shopping mall or something like this, which will be 100% concrete. And also the parking lot will be 100% concrete. They will even have glass facades on the building, and I don't understand it. And so, yeah, just a question, how can we motivate private investors, but also like families in their own homes to be more open to green spaces, also to create really green gardens, green roofs, whatever. What do you have for measurements or like yeah, tips that you can give us?
Excellent question. Anybody has some experience with that, wants to answer?
I don't have experience and good experience with the. I don't know. Maybe it's better, but maybe someone from the participants who's working in the city or in the municipality, they have some good experience. But with the private investors and climate changes and nature-based solutions, we have to remember about ESG indicator, which makes a completely new rules for the investments, and it will be push the business to think about the climate changes, because if they don't do it, they will don't have money for investment. So maybe it's one of the way we should be, I mean the administration, be prepared for the new rules or of financing the investments. And maybe we have some good examples.
So the ESG indicators are environmental, social, governance. Yeah, just for somebody was asking, wondering.
I have the microphone here. Yeah, so here.
Yeah, so we'll take Natalia and then from Napolomica, and then we'll move on to the next question to the panelists.
Okay, I want to give an example of my previous life as policy officer at the Colombian government. So what we did to foster green infrastructure is that we sat down in a working table with the representative of the big companies, construction companies, and what we needed was a study on the cost benefits of nature-based solutions, how much that cost. It was clear, it needed to be very clear to them how much more money they needed to invest, what was the potential return from that money, and then we sat down with different stakeholders to understand what was the possibility of giving incentives from the local government, from the national government mainly, because in Colombia we still have quite a centralized government. And then that resulted in a law, and a green infrastructure law that defines some incentives and rule for green infrastructure. And now they are really committed. That's working well. So I just wanted to share that. I mean, this was a long process, right? It was not that simple, but we put all the cards in the table, as we say there, and had a frank conversation, because they are not going to do it for free, right? They need to understand, we need to talk in the terms of money and business and returns and revenues, right? Thank you.
Thank you for these insights, and it's so nice to have an example from so far away.
Hello, Maciej Manderak from Niepomice municipality. Maybe I'll add something to the Daniel, what they said from the two point of view. One is what we just built and constructed in the Niepomice municipality that you're gonna see tomorrow. The Niepomice, from the macro scale, we can show how it's work really, and then to show that it's our citizens that it's working in that case, like a rain garden and all these things. And then can try to convince them to do something in their own plots. This is the one thing. And then from another point of view, from the EIA assembly assessment, that someone is planning some kind of investment. Of course, we gotta put something information in the master plans, for example, to some kind of retention, really. So it's obligatorily on that case. And on the first stage, we can, of course, give them advices, good practical advices, how to plan this retention really on our investment zone. So this is the stages, the areas that we can work, and to give them some good examples, and then in some way we can get some good results. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, so that's important also to act as a sort of role model in that sense. So, so thank you very much for these contributions. So we'll continue with a question to our panelists. And I'm interested to know, so nature-based solutions, as we've heard this morning, they're like a cross-cutting topic, and they can be connected to many departments within city administration. And I'm interested to know, how are nature-based solutions anchored in your respective city administrations? And I'd like to give the floor to Javier to start.
Yes. Although the nature-based solution concept emerged strongly in the European Union for more than 10 years ago, unfortunately, we don't have any specific nature-based solution department in our municipal organization. We have a municipal organization more focused on the green infrastructure concept. For instance, my department is environmental and green area services. So we are more focused on biodiversity and the ecological connectivity. So I feel this is a conventional organization. It's only focused on nature and places, but within the interlace we are working in an approach with nature, places, and people. So this kind of approach need to be implemented in the city councils. And I am convinced that in the future we are going to have a nature-based solutions department, or at least a nature-based solutions working group to develop this kind of approach. And this is not only in the Granollers city. I think it's it's general in the rest of the Spanish local administrations. But I have to admit that there are some nature-based solutions working group in Catalonia and also in Spain. But there are few municipalities who are taking part.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for this insight. Max, what about you? How is it in Chemnitz?
Well, so I would start maybe with the cross-sectoral kind of the working groups. So in this matter, I would kind of highlight our working group on the master plan on urban nature, which we are currently developing in Chemnitz. So this working group, or the core working group, consists of 4 people. So one from the environmental office, the green space office, and the urban planning office, 2 from them. So 1 person, a colleague, and myself. And so this is working quite well, since like urban nature is kind of an urban overreaching topic, nature-based solutions. So we don't have, like, as Xavier already said, we don't have like a nature-based solutions department. So we really need to work closely together in order to kind of fulfill like the requirements of NBS in a proper way. So this is for kind of cross-sectoral working groups, and for the departments, I will also consider the green space department, environmental department, who's more into this direction of biodiversity and nature protected sites. And then also the urban planning department, who is more there for overreaching plans, developing of overreaching plans or strategic plans. So it's kind of always a mix. I mean, you know, those departments are always really specialized in their doing and in their field of tasks. So cooperation is necessary and needed to kind of fulfill the concept.
And just a follow-up question. So since when is the working group you mentioned before working together? Do you know? And do you know who came up with the idea that this would be a good thing to have?
The working group is in place since 2019, so roughly 2 years, and it was original an idea from the municipality itself. So we came up with that we need to create a master plan of urban nature in order to kind of, I would say, be able to apply for funding. So then the city council said, yeah, we need this master plan of urban nature, and then we came up with this working group in order to kind of fulfill the different aspects of it.
Okay, thanks. So the plan was like basically the starting point, how we can develop the plan, and then this working group was set up. Okay, thank you very much. And last but not least, Daniel, how is it?
So,
This, of course, in your case, a bit different in the metropolitan area.
yes, but we have very similar challenge with the improving the air quality. So similar to it's not similar to NBS, but the methodology and how to work with the administration, we can look some, or we can find some connections between the new challenges with NBS and climate changes, and the work what we did with the air pollution. So when we start the metropolitan cooperation in 2014, the air pollution was the problem only in the city of Kraków. The surrounded municipalities, the mayors, they didn't see the air pollution problem. Of course, they had a much more bigger air pollution problem than in Krakow. After a few years of cooperation and of course using the European funds and building the capacity in administration, the air pollution problem is in all metropolitan area. All the politicians accept that needs to improve the air pollution, the air quality. So I hope that with NBS and also the climate changes, we should go in the same or similar way. And the second perspective from the metropolitan level, we have, we can name it some kind of methodology of working with the thematic forums. So we try to take the people from the municipalities who are responsible for the topic of mobility education, spatial planning, and also now this month we asked the mayors for show the people who will be responsible for the climate changes. And in this thematic forum, we organize the meeting one time a month, and we are prepared the master plan or working plan for solve the problems what we are seeing in this topic. So I hope that the nature-based solution will be solved in these thematic forums when we first we will build the capacity in administration, and the second one we will find the way how we can solve the problems.
So thank you very much. So basically you're using a structure you already have to also discuss the topic of nature-based solution. Yeah, so thank you very much for your answers. And yeah, I think we're moving now slowly towards the end of our panel discussion, even though it could be very interesting. We could talk, I think, for quite a long time still. And as we heard this morning, INTERLACE is not only an European project, but we work very closely with the Latin American partners, and the exchange between Europe and Latin America is like one of the key components also of this project. So I want to end this panel discussion by asking the panelists to finish 2 sentences. So the first sentence is, from the exchange with Latin American cities, I've learned that, and I found the following aspects of the exchange challenging, and I will give the floor to Daniel as host city to finalize, so to speak, the panel discussion. I know you have not been involved personally directly with the Latin American exchange, but I'm sure your colleagues have given you their insights.
Yes, I have some insights. We have learned that in Latin America they have the same problems. So it's good for us because we can look the common way how we can solve these problems. And also we saw that they have to struggle with the silos in governance. So it's also a problem. So we can together we can find a way how we can work with these topics. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So moving on to Javier. So from the exchange of Latin Americans that I've learned, and I found the following aspects challenging.
So I'm really impressed because they have a skill to organize participatory activities, events, conference, with an excellent outcomes, with hundreds and hundreds of participants. And this is something impressive for me because here in the European context, any participatory processes and it's difficult to have a useful and fruitful cooperation for the local community. And in them, they are much better than now we are.
Excellent. And anything challenging?
Challenging for, I think for the Granollers city, we are knowing a lot of great initiatives about nature-based solutions. We love rain gardens. We would like also to implement pocket parks, but sometimes it's really difficult to transfer these good ideas to our local context, but let's try it in the future.
Okay, thank you very much. And what about you, Max? What do you find, what have you learned and what did you find challenging?
What we've learned from the exchange with the Latin American cities is probably that we all face the same challenges, especially concerning rivers as a whole, but we are all on a different stage in solving the challenges. And what I found challenging in the exchange was to identify a common ground. So from where we could start talking and in a way that both cities would benefit from.
So thank you very, very much. So I hope you now have become also interested in our exchange of Latin American cities, because my colleagues Felix Platz will continue by presenting Cities Talk Nature. So so just concentrate a little bit more and you'll hear something more about our exchange. And so now I just want to thank you to all the panelists here. Thank you to you, the audience, for your participation, and a round of applause to all of you.
Thank you very much. And yes, now I will give the floor to Felix, who will talk about Cities Talk Nature community, and hopefully he will encourage some of you to join the Cities Talk Nature community. So Felix, the floor is yours.
Cities Talk Nature is basically it's a platform and it's part of the INTERLACE project. It's facilitated by a few different city networks. It's FLAGMA and UNGL. These are two city networks from Latin America. It's US Climate Alliance, a European city network, and it's a UCAG, a global city network. And basically it's a community of practice dedicated to restoring degraded ecosystems and to apply nature-based solutions. On this map, you see the 6 INTERLACE partner cities, 3 in Latin America and 3 in Europe, the 3 European cities you just saw on the panel. And here you see the idea of Cities Talk Nature. The idea is that there are 3 levels of exchange. There is exchange on the local level. Within the cities, there are stakeholder meetings and processes in each city. Then there's the exchange on a continental level in Latin America and in Europe. And there is the global exchange. The goals of Cities Talk Nature is basically to exchange and work together to foster nature-based solutions, to exchange ideas, to learn from each other, to be in dialogue, to use synergies, and to grow. They are, except the 6 INTERLACE cities, there are even more cities already participating, and we are developing and growing and invite more and more cities to join Cities Talk Nature in order to grow even bigger. Besides exchange, we also aiming to provide access to tools and methods in order to develop nature-based solutions, and of course support collective action towards more sustainable cities. To reach these goals, Cities Talk Nature has 4 pillars. The first pillar is our webinars. for a series of webinars every 2 months, where we invite mostly city practitioners to share their experiences on implementing nature-based solutions, mostly one speaker from Latin America and one from Europe. Next webinar is next week, Wednesday. If you want to join, you find it on our website. Then we have, as we are here, engagement events. It's the first European engagement event. We also had one in Costa Rica a few months ago. They are like conferences to meet in person to further discuss nature-based solutions. The next one will actually be in Chemnitz next year, and then there will be also a global event next year. Then the third pillar is an engagement letter, which already many cities signed. The signatories express their willingness to participate in Cities Talk Nature in the program, and to be part of the exchange, and of course locally to improve the implementation of policies that support nature-based solutions. We have the engagement letter here. It's out there, and I have one here. So if you are thinking of, or if you want, just speak to us, and we will provide you with further information. And the fourth and last pillar is our showcase. It's a kind of online map where each city that signs the letter can showcase their activities, best practices, and the aim is that we have more and more cities that participate to have a rich collection of best practices on the showcase. The only thing you need to do is to sign this letter to share best practices from your city, and then will be showcased on our website. So to summarize, if you want to join, you can to be part of Cities Talk Nature, you can join our events, sign the engagement letter, and showcase your activities. We bought a flyer and the engagement letter, so if you want further information, speak to us or find the letters in front.